I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Hello and welcome to the Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. My name is Elliott, and tonight we have done something a little bit new, a little different. We've opened this episode up for people to come and watch via live stream, and we put the link on Facebook, and this allows users to come in and watch and comments and just interact with us as we're recording the episode. So we've got a few people here with us tonight. Chris, how are you doing? What's going on today out there at FLK?
Doing good. Recovering from some hunt tests and got trained this week. And we got a big double coming next week, and then off to North Platte to another master test, another big double here, and that's busy right now.
So, did you guys test last week?
Yeah, we had a single master last week here. We had a junior senior master here, and then next week we have a double master. They're 100-dog double masters, and they're all full. Mm-hmm. So, and the week after that,
yeah, another double master, right?
And it's full too with 100 dogs. Yep.
And that's the one that I signed up for. It's just 100 dogs total, or there's 100 in each. So it's two.
There's
100
two,
and 100.
There's two tests. Each one of them has 100 in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you're gonna actually be handling your dogs at that event?
Yeah, I'll be handling some for sure. Yeah. So hopefully not too many, because they'll be getting their qualification for the Master National hopefully next week. A bunch of them.
So once they qualify, then you just put them up. And
once they qualify, I'll scratch them and put them away, because they've ran enough tests. They don't need to get any more test aways than they already are.
Right. So how many have you qualified to this point?
20, almost 20. Okay. I'm guessing.
And your goal, your goal is right around 30.
Well, 25 to 30. I think we're going to end up right around 26, 27 is what I'm guessing.
Okay. So 6 or 7 to go. And you have a test. So in the next week is the double masters. How many of those dogs, if they pass both of those, will qualify?
I have no idea. I'd have to look it all up.
But they'd be pretty close. So when I'm there for that week, you may be down just to a few dogs.
Yeah, I hope so. I really don't want to run a bunch. Because there's a lot of stuff that need to, with that test, we're going to need help on that test. So I could run around working. So, but yeah, if I'll have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that, if they do good next week, they'll be qualified, and then some young ones coming up. So, but I'm hoping you do some handling in that, because when I'm out there, I'd like to watch that. Oh, I will. I'm sure I will be running a few. I hope I'm not running a whole lot, but I will be running some. I guarantee I'm going to be running some of them. So
then when I run, we're going to have a conference, and you're going to instruct the judges to not be mean to me.
It depends on what you do. You seem to screw up. It's not my fault.
Take it easy on this one. He's a little slow. I'll walk up there with a little dunce cap on, maybe.
Well, they'll know you're slow as soon as they see you.
I'm really looking forward to that trip, though. I've got a couple things going on. I'm going to stop at my buddy's place in Kearney. He got a job actually managing 12 different properties for the state of Nebraska right on the Platte there.
Oh, good.
And so we're going to do that. Then I'm going to run up to the Sandhills and do a little scouting for the October duck hunt up in the Sandhills on Sunday. And then I'm going to roll in there and train with you guys Monday, and then hit the test Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll bet we have a bunch of scratches for that, because there'll be a lot of people qualifying before that even hits.
So is that kind of typically how it works later in the summer, that you get more scratches because people are like,
the closer it gets to July 31st, the more scratches you get. I mean, that test that you're coming to, it has 100. It's 100 dog maximum per test. Mm-hmm. The first test is 100 dogs in it with 26 on the wait list, and the second test is 100 dogs in it with 13 on the wait list. So there's a bunch.
That is a bunch.
I bet a lot of those dogs will get in on the wait list.
Does it show you which of those are amateur versus pro?
It does. Yeah, it does. If you get on Entry Express and you click on View Entries, it'll tell you who they are and what their status is.
Right. I know Eric's going to be there next week. Is he? Do you know? Is he going to be there for the second? The time I'm going to be there too.
Yes, he is.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Him or Jesse. He'll probably send Jesse. Jesse's probably a better handler. He'll probably send Jesse.
Do his bidding for him.
Yeah. If he wants dogs to pass, he'll send Jesse.
Yeah. Well, that'll be really exciting. And when did you say the Master National was?
September. I had it down right here.
Sometime in September.
Yeah, September. It's the September 21st.
Okay.
Yeah, it's before the Grand this year.
Well, we've got a decent batch of questions today. We're not. I don't think we're going to hit the flow chart. But I was thinking about today. What is the next step on the flow chart when we do hit that? I know we did.
We finished with swim by, and we're going to hit a drill that we call D cheat. And we'll hit that drill, and then we get into like wagon wheel, and we get into like a drill that I call spin drill, which is basically 3-headed casting. We teach you with angle backs, and then some pattern blind lining and casting and stuff. So those are those next steps.
So I'm really, really looking forward to those. I'd say that right now, one of my biggest concerns with Georgie is especially her left angle back. She wants to go straight back. So I've been working hard on it this week, and I took your advice. What you told me was give her just a little nick before I even give her the cast.
Yep.
To let her know I'm serious. And so she's made a little progress this week, but it's just for some reason it's that left angled back. She wants to go straight back.
Yeah, and you're just trying to break it. It's a habit now. So now it's even going to be harder to train on because you're trying to break that habit now.
Yeah.
So it will take a little bit of time.
So before we get into the Q&A, let me make this all about myself for a second.
That's normal.
So one problem I was having this week is at a distance when I was trying to on this blind, she just couldn't find the bumper, and I knew it was right there, and it was just kind of buried a little bit, and she couldn't find it. So as I was recalling her with the whistle, she did this on 2 blinds in a row. She would come back 2 feet and then just sit and stare at me, and I had to just get so aggressive on the whistle. In that instance, is it whistle, nick, and just keep whistling and nick her if she's sitting down and not recalling properly?
Well, she's confused. I mean, was she sitting close to the bumper? Is that what?
Yeah,
she went past it. She went past it, went and recall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I don't know if I would do a bunch of pressure on that. I would, because you got to understand something. You probably do the same thing as everybody else does. When the dog gets close to the bird of the bumper, you just go tweet, 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 and that means like kind of pick it up, right?
I try to do that cadence a little slower than the recall.
But in her mind, she's probably not even recognizing that. So there you may have to just say, here, you actually might have to yell here to get her to come in. If you add a bunch of pressure to that with a recall, you can do that, but a lot of times it confuses them.
Right.
You just yell here, maybe even with a nick with a here or something. But she's probably thinking that you're going tweet, 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 tweet to pick up a bumper that's not there.
Right. And she's a little confused.
Yeah,
we had done that. She ran by it like 3 or 4 times, so we had done it repetitively. And actually, I put a little pressure on her. And that setting kind of started after I was putting a little pressure on her. So she
doesn't want to move because she doesn't want to make a mistake.
Right.
So you're getting to her at least. She's thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to go ahead and jump into these questions? We've got another good batch.
Sure.
All right. So this first question is Walter Brown. It's a pretty long one, so hopefully there's enough detail here because in the upcoming episodes we talked about it, or I guess the past 2 episodes we talked about this. It's when you're giving questions, make sure you give a lot of detail, be very, very specific. So when Chris tries to answer these, he has as much detail as possible.
Yeah, so that does help.
Walter Brown, I don't want to hog the podcast. Chris has answered a few questions for me already, but if you need questions, here's another one. I am on my 2nd retriever that I have personally trained. For the first one, I used Freddie's Meat Dog series, which includes T, double T, and reverse T in the T pattern. He has the back pile at about 100 yards. My questions are, number one, is double T necessary? I don't know if you want me to stop at each question.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do.
So
Yeah, in my program, no, the double T is not necessary. I know a lot of people still run it, still do it. I did it years ago, and I stopped. And I was really reluctant to stop doing the double T because I thought it would hurt our dog's progress and handling. But I stopped, and I have not looked back. It has not, with our program with T and then the swim by, and then the D cheat, and then spin drill. Then we do pattern blind lining and casting and all the pattern blind work. The T is enough for us. That is plenty for us. We don't do the double T, and I don't think it's necessary to do the double T with the program that I use. So that I built. So I don't use the double T.
Should the back pile be that far at 100 yards, or can you get away with 55 to 70 yards?
No, that's a long ways. So the double T is going to be a longer back pile than the T because you have to have two intersections. When I was running the double T, it was about 75 yards. Right now, it's at the absolute most, my T is 50 yards. At the absolute most. And you can get plenty of work done with that.
If you don't do the double T, do you stay with the single T longer than normal or just move on as soon as they get it?
No, there's no reason. And once they've gotten it really good, they're doing it, once you can walk out there and they don't make a mistake, 5 times or 6, 7, 8 times. If they're stopping quick, there's no loopy sit. They're taking every cast, and running confident. Once they're doing all that, there's no reason to stay in the T. Get out of it. You move on because if you sometimes with these dogs, if you stay in the T too long, they can get really, really sour on drill work. So get in and get out, and then move on because there's a lot better things to do than the T.
Follow-up question from Walter. How do you know when your dog is ready to leave the T pattern? What are you looking for? My last dog, I put in 20 bumpers, 12 on the back pile, 2 on each over pile on the double T, and when he picked them all up without making a mistake, we moved on. I also flipped the T, ran the whole thing with the back pile as the starting line, and the starting line had a pile of bumpers on it. When he could do that, I figured that he had it, but I felt like we were on the T forever. What barometer or test do you use to make sure you're ready to move on?
Like I said, they could do it. If you can do it, 5 or 6, if you can come out and you can do it 4, 5, 6 days in a row without a mistake, without good, with good whistle sits, paying attention, working with you, then move on. Get out of there. You can be in it way, way, way too long. So as long as you're not flaring the line, they got good whistle sits, they're responsive, they take all your casts without making a mistake, get out of there.
And do you have some dogs that just love drill work and you could just do it to death and it would never affect their motivation? They love it so much.
Yeah. Some dogs, there's dogs that just absolutely love to do drills. They think it's the greatest thing ever. And then there's some dogs that just absolutely despise it. Chesapeakes are known for that. They despise, most of them, we train a lot of them, and a lot of them just despise drill work. The redundancy of yard work, they can't stand it. So those dogs there, you want to pick up your pace, get in and get out as quickly as you can, keep your sessions a lot shorter, keep them more upbeat, those sort of things. The dogs that love drill work, that are like fire-breathing dragon monsters, that's when you need to slow down, be more deliberate, and they do it on your time, not their time. So so dogs that have a sour attitude, you speed up, try to get more animated. And the dogs that love it, you slow down and take your time and do it on your time.
Are most of the flash puppy you've seen more like the ones that love drill work?
They love it. Most flash puppies love to do anything, honestly. Yeah. We train a bunch of them, and they don't care what they're doing, whether they're running marks or running drill work or pile work or what. They don't actually care. They don't. It's crazy. They just want to do something, anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
We've got 3 questions from Adam Wood. The first one is, what are a few common dog injuries that you've seen at Flatlander, and how does training adjust accordingly to accommodate recovery or rest required? And maybe this is a good opportunity for you to share some successful treatment methods or products that you found for handling various minor dog injuries, not to be taken to a vet type of injuries, but small ones. Also, Not to be taken as vet med advice. All rights reserved. Consult your veterinarian if breaking out. So he's saying you're not liable for this advice.
Yeah. Well, I guess like most common injuries we see, we don't see a lot of injuries. We had Clutch. We only owned a dog named Clutch who blew his knee out in pre-national national training. That wasn't much fun. He had a TPLO surgery and got nursed back to health. That's probably one of the dogs you'll see running is because he was so far behind with the TPLO surgery that he is still trying to qualify for the Master National. He's a heck of a dog too. We don't. And if your dog is hurt, yeah, you have to adjust your training method depending on what it is. If it's got sutures or staples, you got to keep them out of the water for a while. We're basically most dog trainers that have been in the game for a long time are basically amateur veterinarians. I got staple guns and antibiotics and suture kits and all kinds of stuff that we've had to deal with over the years. That's a hard thing to have because if as many dogs as we have, if every single dog that got a little nick or a little cut or a little strain or a little pull, if you had every one of those dogs, took them to the vet, you'd be at the vet every day, all day long. Mm-hmm. That's a hard thing for us to determine what's veterinarian, you got to take them to the vet or not. But if it's something I can't handle or something super serious, we take them to the vet immediately. We see a lot of dogs with, not a lot, we're seeing more and more dogs with IBS issues, stomach issues. And mm-hmm. We're seeing that more and more all of a sudden for some reason the last few years. Those dogs are real high energy, anxious, anxiety dogs. And those dogs are dangerous because those dogs will come into training and, they'll be at home and they'll come into the kennel just a little bit thin, but, not majorly thin, but a little bit thin. And then they'll come into the kennel and the kennel environment, it's like the gen pop at the prison, there's a lot of dogs and it's loud and it's, exciting and that sort of thing. And those dogs, they got so much energy that they just never quit moving. They're excited all the time. And those dogs will start losing a lot of weight and there's nothing you can do to keep weight on them. It's really, really hard. And we'll put them in a trailer or they live in a crate at night or whatever. We do everything in our power to keep weight on them. And then when the owner sees them, they're like, oh my God, he's so skinny. What'd you do to my dog? I'm like, we didn't do anything but keep it alive. I mean, it's so hard to keep weight on these dogs that they don't understand. Well, he doesn't do that at home. They're not at home. They're in a different environment. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of stuff going on. And those dogs are hard to keep weight on. Those dogs are really, really hard to deal with. And a lot of times they're like really good dogs too, because they have a lot of energy. They want to work. They want to go, but that they don't have that. It never shuts off. They're always moving. And those dogs, you got to feed them more food. And then when you start feeding them more food, there's something gets upset. So then they start having. I mean, it's a never ending battle. That's what we're seeing mostly of right now is dogs that are kind of hard to keep weight on.
Do you have many lacerations?
Not a lot. We get, if anything, we get puncture wounds. Like if you get in a dog fight or something out in the airing yard, you'll see some puncture wounds. We do our damnedest to keep dogs not fighting, but it's almost impossible. And it doesn't happen very often. But there are some fights in the airing yard. You got to, be very aware of what's going on. And we have we probably got 5 alpha males that have to air by themselves. That's all there is to it. They cannot be around another. Now, out running around in the field and airing, they're fine. But you put them in that airing yard, and they can't take it. They can't do it. They want nothing to do with it. And it's
that's the fenced-in area.
Yeah, that's the fenced-in area, and they get in a fight. So they have to air by themselves. You got to be really careful of that.
All right. His second questions: what are some items, products beyond training equipment that every retriever owner should own for their home or on the road? Things like first aid items, just to make life easier, etc.
Well, if you're a single dog guy and you have a crate for your dog, don't buy them cheap ass Petco PetSmart crates. Buy a really good one. Buy a Lucky Duck dog crate or buy a Gunners Up. One of those two, those are my two favorite as far as crates. I prefer the Lucky Dog crate. That's my favorite one. The not Lucky Dog.
Lucky Duck.
Lucky Duck. Yep, I got like 5 of them. I like the Lucky Duck crates the best. Those are my favorites. For some reason, they're a little bit shorter, but they're a little bit wider than the Gunner Up and the Gunner crate. They're both really, really good. That's a big deal. Put them in a really good crate, or buy something really nice like a stainless steel dog box. That's the way to go.
Do you buy the attachable? Well, I guess yours is totally different, but do most amateurs buy like attachable fans? I've seen both the attachable fans or just the ones.
Yeah, I don't have fans because I don't carry my dogs around in crates like that. But they can make an attachable fan that attaches to the door, or you can do like the wall fans. You know, when you get there, that's the biggest thing is put them in a good crate. And then you probably should have like a staple gun with you if you can have it. Maybe some emergency antibiotics, like cephalexin or metronidazole for upset stomach. Rubbing alcohol for a dog that's overheating. A lot of that type of stuff you need to have on you. I know Eric Tizon, he has a in-depth overheating deal for his dogs. So, but we don't really get into that too much out here because we're really careful. We don't have a ton of high humidity anyway. But you should have, gauze bandages, the vet wrap stuff. You should have just a minimum. The biggest thing is I would ask your veterinarian, hey, we're on the road all the time. What's a good, what can I get for a emergency vet kit? And he'll put it together for you and just do that. That's what I would do if I was them.
Question number 3 from Adam. If someone has a family dog retriever that is just never going to be an HRCH MH, but the owner still wants to train the dog, to what level seems achievable to the dog's potential? What, if any, adjustments should they make to follow the program or flow chart? What are signs that the dog just may not succeed with a certain part of the program and the owner should regroup and change expectations?
Well, that's a hard thing to do because the second you tell somebody that their dog isn't going to make HRCH or Master Hunter, if that's their goal, it's like you just punched them in the stomach. I mean, they take it very, very personally, and especially people that haven't been in the dog game for a long time. Everybody thinks their dog can do it, and not every dog can do it. But the biggest thing about being a trainer is you need to get get the most potential out of that dog you possibly can, like the absolute most. And if that potential is an HR dog or a senior hunter, that's the potential. But you have to have that conversation with that owner. And also, you don't even know what the potential is. I mean, you don't have any idea. And you, as a trainer, you have to make that distinction. Is that dog going to make it or not make it? And as long as you're seeing progress, no matter how slow it is, as long as you're seeing progress and you talk to the owner and you say, hey, listen, I am seeing progress. I don't know where we're going to stop at seeing progress, but we're seeing progress. Just hang on. If you've got the patience, I got the time, and just see what we got. I trained a dog years and years ago named Toby, and Dennis is on here. I'm sure he'll hear this. A dog named Toby, and he can vouch for this. He brought me Toby years ago, and Toby, you threw a 40-yard mark with a bird or even a 20-yard mark, he could care less. He wanted nothing to do with a bird, could care less, no retrieving desire, none of that. And I gave up on him. I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, you know what? After today, I'm going to call Dennis tomorrow, and we're going to wash him out. But then the next day, he would progress just a little bit more. And that dog ended up being an HRCH Master Hunter and went all the way to the 5th series of the Grand. Turned out to be a really nice dog, but he progressed at his own pace. And Dennis is like, well, if he's progressing, let's try it. So the moral of the story is you really don't even know, where the dog is going to stop. Now, if the dog literally has no retrieving desire at all and just does not care, then you need to obviously wash that dog out and get a different dog. But be careful. Get ready for when you say that to somebody, it's usually never the dog's fault. It's usually our fault for some reason. It's crazy. It's crazy in this world that, if a kid goes to high school and plays basketball and doesn't make the NBA, he doesn't blame the coaches. The kid just wasn't talented enough. But for some reason, when the dog doesn't make it to where the owner thinks it should be, it's our fault. It's not ever the dog's fault. So we try our hardest with every dog, and not every dog makes it. And my big saying is, Michael Jordan's kids are not Michael Jordan. So, but, got to reach every dog's potential. And I say a lot of times, what do I say? A good trainer can make a bad dog good. A good trainer can make a bad dog great, or a great trainer can make a bad dog great. I mean, it literally, it's not what it says, but a great trainer can make something out of nothing. As long as a dog can retrieve, you can get it done.
So that's the biggest red flag for you if you assess a dog as just complete lack of retrieval desire.
Complete lack of effort, complete lack of desire, could care less about retrieving, could care less about a bird, could just care less. Now, a lot of times those dogs, when we get that, the first time these dogs have seen a bird is 6 months old. So the owners have not done anything with that dog to spark its, prey drive and retrieving desire. That's really hard. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but the number of dogs that you wash out is very, very low.
It's very low. It's very now. If there's a dog, some of our owners are really good about, hey, listen, dog's not going to make it. Let me know. We'll get a different one. But I don't like to give up on the dogs too much because you just never. I've been in the game for so long. If I gave up on every dog I didn't think was going to make it, we wouldn't have the number of title dogs that we have now. I mean, it's crazy. Just if you give them time and let them grow up, if the owner has the patience, that's the biggest thing. Is the owner has to have the patience to do it and trust you.
All right, I'm going to jump past Tanner's and maybe we can circle back to it because we've talked about that multiple times.
I mean, the biggest thing is Tanner. I don't train your dog. I don't know anything about your dog. Ask your trainer where your dog's at and what drills to do with your dog. That's the biggest thing is ask the trainer that it was at. Because I don't know the dog or the level of the dog or what training the dog has actually had. So ask your trainer and go with him.
Steve Kelly, how often, if any, do you teach run to down shore? Can you explain your training if you do that?
Yeah, that's down the shore. That's a big deal in the AKC stuff is two down the shore.
Marks?
Yeah, it's called two down the shore where you have, let's say your shoreline's on the left and they're throwing down the shore. So you have one down the shore like this and one down the shore like that, if that makes sense.
So they're going out onto a peninsula?
No, they're going down the shore. So if you see my piece of paper like right here, let me try to do this. And you're sitting here, down the shore would be like on this end, thrown down the shore. So you have to swim by the short gun to get to the mark. Then you have to swim by the short mark to get to the second mark. You have to swim by the holding blind. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
That's down the shore. And we actually do it quite a bit. And we do it in the singles. We do it singles a lot. And if you can find a really good shoreline to do it on, you can even run 5 down the shore just as singles. You throw the first one out. Let's say your shore's on the left. You throw first one out left to right. You pick that up. Then you have another holding blind. You throw another one. You throw another one. And you just keep doing it as singles, swimming past the holding blinds of the previous mark. And hopefully, if you do it right with corrections, if the dog tries to beach early, stop him, handle him back on line with a correction or whatever. Eventually, hopefully, your dog is swimming almost past the bird and hooking into the bird that way from the outside in. And if that happens, your dog is really understanding the concept, if that makes sense.
Yep. All right.
So
Anthony Mills.
Kevin asked here. He says, what about a dog that makes no noise while marks are coming out, but lets out a little whine when released, especially for the first bird? Acceptable or any way to work on it? That's a really hard thing to do. As long as it's just a little yip, like when he's leaving, I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't, because that's going to be really, really hard to fix. One way to try to work on that is before you send the dog on the go bird or the mark or whatever, before you send the dog, maybe you say sit and maybe a little smack with a healing stick on the hip, that reiterates like a sit. It takes his mind off that little yip, and then you could send him on that mark, and I'll bet you he doesn't yip because you've kind of reset his brain a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that mark hits, you'll say sit, but then you'll whack with the healing stick a little bit, and then you'll send him on the mark, and I'll bet you he doesn't yip because you've taken his mind off of what he was doing. You kind of broke that excitement a little bit, if that makes sense.
Is that something that judges are going to, at least in their mind, mark you down for a little bit?
No, not if it's just a little yip. Now, if it's a barking when leaving, barking when you're leaving, yeah, they won't like it. But a little yip, they think it's cute. Most of them think it's cute.
Yeah. It's kind of like they're spinning their tires.
Yeah, like they're squealing. They're peeling out.
Right.
But like I said, if you hit them with a healing stick or something and say sit before you set them, I bet it stops that a lot. Kevin has another question here. On the down the shore, are the birds landing on land or in the water? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Is with a young dog that you're first starting out down the shore, it's not a bad idea to have those birds land on the edge of the water with a splash. It gives them a target, so to speak, and it keeps them outside, instead of beaching early. Once they get proficient with it, they're always on land. The key is to swim past the gun to get to the mark and not beach early. But when they're young, a splash on the water, on the edge of the water is a good idea. And a lot of times when they're young here too, when we're starting to teach that to our really young season type dogs, we'll throw a black and white ATV on the edge of the water. It gives them a target before transitioning up on land.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Anthony Mills, how do you know when your HRCH MH dog is ready to go run the MN or the Grand? How do you evaluate that?
When that dog is passing, I would say not necessarily finish tests. Depending on where you're at, some of the finish tests, they'll be quite a bit easier than the Grand. But once you've got a really good master level dog and you've entered some pretty difficult master tests, when you see that dog doing really well on some of the master tests and really, passing just about everything, that dog is probably closer to running the Grand than you think. Definitely try to find somebody that runs the Grand and trains for the Grand and train with him or her. And if your dog can run with their big dogs, that's a good Grand guy. If your dog can run with their big dogs, you're pretty much ready to go to the Grand. But yeah.
All right. Jared McGovern, I really appreciate y'all's podcast, and I've learned a lot. I'm 3 weeks into force fetch, and my Chessie gal is finally fetching bumpers at about 10 yards away. It almost seems like force fetch is killing my dog's drive. She doesn't even like to go after the fun bumpers anymore. Will that come back with time after we're done? Will force fetch, or will I always have to force her to retrieve now?
Now that'll come back. It should come back as long as the dog had good retrieving desire before you started force fetch. That should come back. And I'll be quite honest with you, that's a Chessie thing. There's some resentment that Chessies have. They always have. They always will, and they'll shut down a lot of times during force, just for resentment. And I've seen it in labs too quite a bit. But that should come back as long as they had good retrieving desire before you started that. We see it quite a bit, actually.
All right, we are down to the last one unless we have some more questions from the audience that's here watching today. Kathy Streeter, what is the criteria for deciding when to stop a dog on a point and casting them into the water versus allowing them to continue straight across the point into the water on their own?
Yeah, we talked about that, and I can't remember what podcast it was. Remember when we talked about stopping them in the water, let them carry it, and that's when you give a correction or not give a correction?
Right.
We had a really good conversation about that, and I don't remember which episode that was. But the criteria for stopping a dog on a point, it all depends on the dog's level. If the dog gets out of the water and is crossing the point, and now I'm going to talk about training, not testing. Let's just talk about training. If the dog is on the point and is carrying its line across the point, running across the point on line to the blind and or mark, why would you stop them? So let them carry their line back into the water, and then if they veer left or right and give into the suction of the land or whatever, then you would stop them and call them back and do it again. But why would you? Because a lot of people will stop their dog on a point to get the cast to make sure they get off the point correctly. Well, you're not teaching the dog anything. The only thing you're teaching the dog to do is pop on the point when it gets on the point, is pop and stop and look at you. So if the dog is on line, let's just say we're running a blind, and the dog is on line, running across, let the dog get back in the water on its own, and it may carry that line all the way to the blind. So the dog has taught itself, hey, I've got to hold my line, get off there, and I'll get to the blind. If the dog veers, let's just say the shore is on the left, the dog veers left and sucks into the land, but then that dog's made the decision to give into the factor. That's where you stop the dog, you recall the dog, maybe give it a correction, and then recast it back on line with the literal cast to carry to finish the blind. That's how you teach a dog to carry. Don't stop the dog if the dog is doing the right thing. And don't say, well, I thought my dog was going to do this. Only stop your dog and intervene when your dog has done something. The dog has done something, then you get involved. If the dog is doing it right, leave it alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that, Kathy, you need to go back and try to find it. I'm not sure exactly which one that was on, but there was a really good conversation about that.
Man, it would be so great to have like a digital Rolodex of all this stuff, because the thing I love about how much we do the Q&As is when you're learning, like you watch a program and you're learning how to do whatever in the flow chart, it's typically just, here's what you do. It's not problem solving. And this is all, and problem solving is such a huge part of it. And it'd be so great to go through these podcasts and have like a feature where it's like, okay, here's the problem, and boom, it just comes up with this problem solving advice.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is problem solving, but like Kathy's question, it's not problem solving. It's just technical blind training 101. I mean,
sure,
how to get a dog, on the technical aspects of running a blind and doing it correctly. That's everybody does it just a little bit different, but here at the kennel, and we teach a thinking dog, period. I don't intervene. If the dog is doing it right, I don't intervene. Only when the dog deviates is when we get involved. And the second it deviates, it changes its mind, we want to change its mind. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But Kevin has another question. He goes, I don't know if you want to share or not. I know you have your women's group, but how does one get a hold of you to come train? Just shoot me an email or text me or send me a message on Facebook. Give me, ask me. If we got some openings, we're pretty much an open book here. We got people everywhere most of the days. And it's pretty much an open book. So come on out if you need to.
Yeah, guys, if you can do that, I would say absolutely go and do that. I was texting with Walter, and he was saying that he had noticed, he had been around Georgie and I, and he had noticed the kind of improvement Georgie made from the time we spent out there last summer. And I was thinking about it. There's so many things that I learned from that just really can't necessarily be put in just a flow chart or just a book. Kind of like I was talking before. It's like, it's that dog in that situation. And it's like, you just can't just learn that by reading a book or watching a video. It's just invaluable.
And I always tell people, because that's one thing I pride myself on, is I'm really good at e-collar work and e-collars and collar conditioning, and teaching a dog how to deal with pressure and understand pressure, how to get out of pressure in a good manner that the dog we don't break its spirit. I pride myself in that. And that stuff you can read as many collar conditioning things as you want. You can do as much force stuff. You read it as much as you want. Watch a video as much as you want, until you've actually touched thousands of dogs and you know how to pull the choke and pump the gas and to get them going. It's almost impossible to tell you how to collar condition correctly, or force a dog to a pile, or water force a dog, because it's so much read and react and timing. It's very hard. It's very hard to teach that like in a book or a seminar. You just have to. And like you said, every dog's different. That's the thing. So Toby has a question here. He goes, I have a 14-week-old puppy who craves to retrieve on land and water. How many times a week should I work him? He craves both birds and bumpers every day if you can. Get him out, spend some time with him, do it every day. Now, don't overdo it, but get him out, do something with them every day. Teach them how to learn. Like new water, new sights, new sounds, new cover, new habitat. I mean, everything. The more this dog sees, the better off you're going to be, for sure.
All right. Well, it looks like that we covered them all. You think?
Yeah.
All right. Well, those of you that came here to actually watch the live stream with us, we appreciate you being here and joining us tonight. And if you didn't make it, make sure that you come over to the Flatliner Kennel Facebook group and also the YouTube channel, because the podcast, the video versions of the podcast can be seen on the YouTube channel, Flatliner Kennel's YouTube channel as well. So make sure and come check us out.
All right, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for getting on the questions and stuff. We really enjoy it. So thanks, Elliott. We'll see everybody at the line. Take that aim.
Gotta strike this chord with the humble hearts, bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably, they're gonna get their way if you don't take that fight.